the genocide of ethnic German minorities. With its best workers gone, Yugoslavia soon became a beggar nation and received massive foreign aid from the USA just to keep it going. When Willy Brandt, the Sozi social democrat, a man of undetermined origin and a Quisling, was Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Tito received millions in reparations from Germany. Not much of this money, if any, benefited the people, for it was squandered by Tito on high living. The Danube Swabians were robbed of billions in property, but Brandt and Tito never discussed that. They were, after all, birds of the same color, red. Ironically, many Yugoslavians have had to migrate to Germany to earn a living, including some who were involved in the atrocities. They swagger around and even boast of their exploit. They can't be brought to trial because of the war crimes have not been officially recognized. On Yugoslavia radio programs and Serbo-Croatian language schools during Tito's lifetime, children were taught of such heroic songs as "Over German corpses we shall march to victory." With glasnost sweeping the east, both Croatia and Slovenia have held free elections in which the people opted overwhelmingly to secede from Serbian-controlled Yugoslavia. Will the Yugoslav Federation, which, other than amongst the Serbs, has so few friends within its borders, last another year? Who knows? However, before it breaks up entirely, it should come to grips with its horrible past and do the honorable thing by confessing its crimes. Even if it does not compensate the Danube Swabians for their material losses, one can't expect too much from a bankrupt country after all. It should at least allow those to grieve for the king to visit the burial sites and allow monuments to be erected over mass graves. It should also admit that within its borders some of the worst crimes in European history were committed in our lifetime. Such crimes cannot be forgiven. Since the perpetrators have reaped great benefits from their crimes and have gone unpunished, it's a tragedy for those in the know to remain silent. After the First World War, the Treaty of Trianon, Romania, a backwater of Europe, received a large chunk of Hungarian territory, including northern Banat, a showcase of 18th century German colonization. Temesburg was largely inhabited by Danube Swabians and Hungarians. Because of its cultural amenities, it is known as the Vienna of the East. Under its German mayors, it was the first city in Europe to install electric street lighting. The German theater, the high school, the offices of agricultural cooperative, as well as most of the important German newspapers were located there. Today, Timisoara, the scene of the recent 1990 unfinished revolution, is a crumbling city. Under the communists, the beautiful Danube Swabian towns and villages have slowly deteriorated to the point where they have become a ghost town. Under dictator Ceausescu, farms were collectivized and villages were leveled to make way for agro-complexes, which turned out to be total failures. Commies even confiscated vegetables that housewives grew in their home gardens. No one was allowed to benefit from their labor, so even the inborn work ethic of the Danube Swabians disappeared. There seemed to be no future, and people didn't have children, and for years there was a pervasive feeling of dread and hopelessness among the people. The borders were sealed and practically no one was allowed to leave the country. Some years ago, Ceausescu hit upon a brilliant idea. His Germans could be foreign exchange earning commodities. Germany needed workers to feed the booming economy, so what was wrong with selling his Germans, who wanted to leave anyway, to Germany? The German government was in agreement with this proposal and signed a pact with the devil to take 10,000 annually for an undetermined time. 8,000 marks a head, or 14,000 marks for professionals. In actual price, another 2,000 or so had to be paid under the table to the local communist henchmen to release its Romanian citizens. For Ceausescu, it was an excellent deal, and he got hard currency, got rid of an unwanted minority, and got their property to boot. As I see it, it proved yet again that the present German leaders have no moral backbone. Instead of paying money to a tyrant, they should have done the honorable thing and lodged a complaint with the United Nations about human rights abuses in Romania. Even if this had been done, and however, no good probably would have come from it, and the dire need of the Romanians Germans would have at least come to the attention of the world community. But instead, they helped the dictator in power and thus became his accomplices. The slave trading stopped, however, when Ceausescu was overthrown and killed. And of the 350,000 Danube Swabians still in Romania, only about 30,000, mostly the elderly and the ill, remained. In a few years, they were all gone as well. And the once flourishing Banat, the agricultural jewel of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, will have died a slow death. Houses and churches still crumbling, and once lush fields lay fallow and overgrown with weed. And what Danube Swabians had toiled for centuries to create had been destroyed in just a few years. A book about Danube Swabians entitled Strangers in the Fatherland, and that's exactly what they have become to their former homeland. The gentle, orderly, industrious, tolerant, peaceful, and religious, albeit naively apolitical people, are all gone. And since the bees, the Danube Swabian workers, have left, the Danubian basin is no longer a land of milk and honey. And in Hungary, the land granted to them by the former king was taken away by the communist regime. In Romania, their beautiful villages bulldozed, the farms collectivized, and they were treated as virtual slaves. In Yugoslavia, it was even worse. Although Danube Swabians had settled in the region at least 200 years before there was even a Yugoslavia to speak of, they were branded as German nationals and exterminated. Although they were by far the biggest producers of foodstuffs, the partisans took particular delight in seeing utterly defensive rural peoples starving to death in what had been a land of plenty. A whole civilization died out, and the world is none the wiser. Yugoslavia, which exterminated its most provident ethnic minority in the country, first became a beggar nation and eventually disintegrated from within. Only in Hungary, since the fall of the communist regime, is there hope of a decent life for the Danube Swabians in their ancient homeland.